Hello and welcome to the world of Sockmatician. That's me. I am Sockmatician. My real name is Nathan Taylor, and you can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, Twitter and YouTube as Sockmatician, spelt here I think. Welcome all. This is episode 6A of my podcast. Previous watchers will notice the deliberate mistake, which was not deliberate at all. I don't know why I even called it that. Don't you hate it when people say, spot the deliberate mistake, when it wasn't deliberate at all? It really wasn't. I named the previous episode number 6 when it was in fact number 5. In fact, I don't think I was even consistent with how I named it. I think it was number 5 either on screen and number 6 elsewhere, or the other way around. It was in fact the 5th episode. I had only done 4 before that, so it couldn't possibly be number 6. So rather than go back and rename episode 6 and call it number 5, which might confuse people, I've decided to call this one 6A, which means that by the time we come to the next episode, it will be number 7, and it will be the 7th episode, and we'll be right on track. So this is episode 6A, and it's called What BAFTA? I think you can probably guess why. More about that later. So how have you been? Have you been busy? Have you been knitting well? Have you been having nice experiences? Please share. I'd really love to know what you've been up to, because I sit here and I burble on for an hour or so every couple of weeks about what I've been doing, but I'd really love to hear about the kind of things that you've been up to as well. So pop over to my group on Ravelry, which is just Sockmatician. Join the group, please say hello. Welcome yourselves to it, because I welcome you here to it. You are more than welcome to come along and say hi. I love hearing about what you guys have been up to. The group is becoming more and more a friendly place, and I could not be more delighted. We've already had one bi-continental meetup. Someone from America, Audrey, and Marcia from Germany met up in real life, having only got to know each other through this podcast and through my group. So I could not be happier about that. Apparently they had a lovely time, and they had some hot chocolate, and I love hot chocolate, so I'm delighted about that too. So maybe we can talk about a tri-continental meetup. We need to get people in Australia perhaps, or somewhere in Africa. Do we have any viewers in Africa? If you're in Africa, we do, I know we do. If you're on the African continent and you want to, you're coming to London at any point, then do let us know, and maybe there will be people who can meet up with you as well, and we can share the love. That would be amazing. What have I been up to? It's been a busy time. I have the sort of life which, a little while ago I started describing my life in a certain way, and I use a particular word, and the older I get, the more appropriate this word becomes. And I often talk about, I've tweeted about it several times in the past, my chaotic life. Chaotic is the absolute perfect word to describe what happens to me on a daily basis, because I have a bit of a portfolio existence in that I do lots of different things to earn money. I'm an actor, I'm a singer, I'm a knitting designer, as you know, but I also do a lot of stuff in the corporate field, and basically anything at all that will bring some pennies in. And I have lots of strings to my bow, which is great. It means that life is never dull, and I'm very thankful for that. I also have a day job as well, for when I'm not doing any of these other slightly more interesting things. But it means that my life never gets dull, but it also means that it can be quite frenetic. This is not a whinge at all. I wouldn't have it any other way. But I do sometimes look back over a week and just go, now what was I doing on Tuesday? Because it was it seems so long ago, even though it's only a couple of days ago. Today, I should have said, is Thursday the 14th of May. I genuinely can't remember what I was doing on Tuesday. I think I must have been working. So what have I been doing? The weekend after I last recorded the podcast, so the weekend before last, I had a singing concert to do. Now, it wasn't a theatre concert or anything like that. I work for a company called Simon Greenhill Entertainment, and we provide wedding acts. I'm not a wedding singer as such, so I'm not the person who stands at the back while everyone's dancing and smooching, go with unintelligible words into a terribly bad microphone. It's not that at all. What we do is a singing waiters act. It's brilliant. It's so much fun to do, and audiences always love it. We basically pretend to be waiters, and so we might be serving drinks and serving food, and then there's a little bit of a pre-spiel which gets us into taking microphones out and singing for people. It's only 20 minutes long. We do it during the wedding dinner, and it always goes down a storm. And I haven't had a chance to do one of these since last year. Actually, this one last weekend was my first one since before Christmas. Just that's the way life goes, and it was quite nerve-wracking actually going back to it, because there's quite a lot of jeopardy involved in getting it started, because nobody apart from the person who's booked us knows that we're there. It's very much a surprise thing. And on this particular one, the bride and groom had no idea what we were going to be doing. So there is always that danger of interrupting the bride's special day, that things could get a little bit scary. I remember once I flew over to South Africa, to Cape Town, to do a couple of these concerts over there. And it wasn't a wedding, it happened to be a bar mitzvah, a very wealthy family. And while we were starting, the mother of the bar mitzvah lad, who knew we were there, she was the one who had booked us, so she knew what was going on. She suddenly jumped up and she started talking to one of the others and saying, no, enough of this, we don't want this, make it stop. I was panicking, thinking, oh my God, she's really decided that she doesn't want this and she wants to call a halt and pull the plug. But then the performer in me kicked in, and I thought, do you know what, lady, I have flown many thousands of miles to come here and sing for you. I'm darn well going to do it. So I sort of jumped in and managed to sort of chaperone her over. I said, no, don't worry, I'll sort it all out, everything will be fine, all in character and all as part of the act, and sat her down, played the music and started singing. It all went well. It turned out that some of the older people, the older family members, grandparents and great-grandparents, I think in some cases, on her table were worried that the guy pretending to be the chef at this point was going to spoil the afternoon, and were urging her to do something about it. So she, thinking rather than spoil the surprise, would have to go along with it because she was a bit of a matriarch and it would be odd for her to do nothing at all, decided to get up and join in. Of course, we had no idea whether she was on our side or not. I thought it was genuine. But it all went well. The audience really enjoyed it, as they always do. Anyway, that's a digression. So there is always a little bit of jeopardy, and I was really nervous, having not done it for a little while. My microphone was hidden behind my back, and just at the point where I was supposed to start to sing, I could really feel my heart beating, butterflies in my stomach. I had nothing to worry about. As soon as I started into it, it was like riding a bike. It all comes flooding back every time you get on, doesn't it? And I had a thoroughly good time. The congregation in this massive marquee, there were about 100 of them, absolutely loved what we were doing. It was so much fun. Everyone was up dancing at the end. It was brilliant. So that was a lot of fun. But oh my word, the house itself. It was down near a place called Bagshot in Surrey, in a little village called Windlesham. And there's some money there, I tell you. I think somebody was telling me that the house that we were performing at, we were in a massive marquee in the garden that had been set up for the wedding. I didn't go into the house at all. But this house was huge, and someone had said to me that it was worth about £5.5 million. Ooh, we should be so lucky. And apparently, the chap who owned it had downsized in order to move there. So Lord only knows what his original house must have been like. It was beautiful, and the lawns went on forever, and over there was a massive bronze life-size statue of a horse on the grass. It was all lit as well, and there were flower beds and shrubberies and hedgerows. It was absolutely stunning, and we were in this huge marquee. in the garden, which was all done in a beautiful, the style for the wedding was all Art Deco, so everything was sort of silver and bronze and clean lines and Art Deco patterns. All of the place holders on the wedding tables were all Art Deco. The cake was beautifully Art Deco. It was 3 very, very sharply cornered square tiers. One was gold, one was black, and one was white. There were feathers and strings of pearls, all made out of icing. It was absolutely lovely. I go to a lot of weddings, and I've been to many over the years in a professional capacity, and they can all tend to look the same. This one was a little bit different. It was lovely. And a good time was had by all. So that was that weekend. The weekend just gone was a little bit more frenetic, even by my standards. On the Saturday, Ben and I were hosting a music quiz. Now, we've done this before. It's a lot of work, let me tell you. We're not the kind of people who have just gone onto Google and downloaded a quiz that we can use. We've done it all ourselves. Actually, Ben did the majority of it because I was busy on something else, which I'll tell you about in a minute, or as Elizabeth would say, about which more in a moment. And I love that phrase, it's brilliant. And so what we had done is we had edited together little snippets of various songs, all on different themes, and put it together. And the whole point of it was that we were raising money for the release of the latest album by the Rebel Chorus. Now, the Rebel Chorus are a choir that Ben and I have put together essentially to sing Ben's music. They sang his Requiem. They were the choir that sang, some of the Rebel Chorus were the choir that sang in our wedding film, and we've done various concerts and recordings of other things before. Over the last couple of years, we've recorded many things, but 2 particular are going on this one album. One is the Pepys Motet, which is it started life as a 40-part motet, literally 40 individual voices all singing different stuff. Not all at the same time all the way through, but there are places where all 40 people are singing completely different things, like Talas's Spem in Allium. And it was wonderful, but Ben wanted to sort of strip it down a bit, and he rewrote it for 20 voices, and we recorded that a couple of years ago. And it's taken this long to do anything with it. He also wrote a piece called Oranges and Lemons a couple of years back, which features every single bell in every single one of the churches mentioned in the longer version of the nursery rhyme Oranges and Lemons. There are, I think, 17 churches in all, and what Ben and his producer did was they recorded each and every bell being struck individually, and they inserted these bell strikes manually into the score that Ben had written for bells and choir. And it's the first time that all of these bells have ever played together. They're all East City of London based churches, and it sounds magnificent. And actually, some of them, the mechanisms to ring them don't work anymore. So he was climbing around dusty belfries with a rubber hammer and a recording equipment to get these sounds. Some of which, the last time they were heard, was on VE Day, which is of course almost exactly 70 years ago. So it's quite a historic piece. And Samuel Pepys being very London-based, and Oranges and Lemons all being about the bells of London. All of the words in the Pepys Motet, by the way, are taken directly from Samuel Pepys' diary, which you might be able to see on my mantelpiece. I'm pointing at it just here. These blue books, that's Ben's copy of the diary of Samuel Pepys. And all of the words that we sing in the motet come directly from that. It's a quirky, unusual, interesting piece. There's no instruments on it at all. Every sound is being made by the human voice, some hand clapping as well, but it's all done by humans, and it's absolutely brilliant. So the point is, we're putting this stuff together, Oranges and Lemons and the Pepys Motet, onto an album. It's all been recorded, it's all been mixed. We just needed to raise some money to create the actual CDs, to get them printed, and do the graphic design work and stuff for the album cover. So that's what the quiz was for, and we put so much work into it. We hired a little church hall. It was brilliant. It was exactly what you'd want. Children's drawings stuck up on the walls everywhere, a little stage at one end, which we didn't use, a little curtain, and a tiny little kitchen with a big serving hatch where we'd baked loads of cakes, and some friends of ours had brought cakes along that we could sell to raise a bit more money. And we had about 50 people there, I think. which wasn't too bad. There were various teams of people, mostly friends. I mean, I don't think there was anyone there that we didn't know, apart from, I mean, some people had brought some of their friends, but essentially everyone was connected to us in some way. Ben's family won. Not sure of the ethics of that, but they were they got the highest marks. They were not privy to any of the questions beforehand, I promise, but they won, and we gave them chocolates and champagne and stuff like that. So we had a lot of fun doing it. What was a little bit odd about it was there was a camera crew there. Sirens. There was a camera crew there filming the whole day, and I think some of our friends are starting to think that Ben and I don't do anything unless there's a camera crew pointing stuff at us, which isn't true. Obviously, we got married in front of television cameras, but we're working on a new documentary together. I can't talk about it at the moment. It's a project for next year. We're doing some preliminary stuff now, but essentially, it has to do with what makes a musical successful. Can these things be quantified, and can you guarantee that using a formula might give you a successful musical? I'm saying no more about it than that, but this was why we had the camera crews there. So other people, other quiz members were being asked their opinions on what they think is a successful musical, what musicals do they like and don't they like, and of course there's quite a musical theatre slant to some of our questions as well. It's me and it's Ben, what can I tell you? So that went really well. We raised a little under £400, I think, which is not far off what we need, so we're very nearly there, which is brilliant. And so watch this space. I'll give you more details about the release when we get nearer to the time. Then we came to Sunday. Now Sunday was a really long day. As many of you will know, my husband Ben wrote a musical last year in 2014 for the NYMT, which is the National Youth Music Theatre, and it was about the First World War, and it is called Brass. I love it, and this is not, I promise you, this is not me being the biased, proud husband. I promise you it's not. I genuinely love the music. I think it's brilliant, and I think the story is really powerful and emotional. It's about the Leeds Pals Regiment, and it's a fictitious story based on real events, and it's very, very moving. Now, what Ben has been doing has been recording the soundtrack for professional release, which is great because it means that there'll be a calling card for the show and other people can hear it, and the show will live on past its production last August. And so we've had the original cast back. They're all young people aged between sort of 16 and 23, I think. And the band were also a 23-piece band, 8 brass members. Oh, amazing. Sounds fantastic. Again, all young people apart from the musical director. So, I mean, the lead trumpeter is 16 years old, but he sounds better than a lot of pit musicians in West End shows. He's extraordinary. So it's been recorded, and in order to help publicise and to get it ready for the launch, what Ben wanted to do was to film one of the songs. So he applied to the Arts Council England, ACE, and was given a small amount of money to put towards this film. It was really exciting. The song he's chosen to film is called Billy Whistle, and it's a story of, it's sort of set outside the story of the show. It's a standalone piece, and it's about this young lad who whistles like a bird. It's called Billy Whistle, and the birds whistle back to him, and he communicates with the birds, and he gets swept away in the euphoria of war fever and signs up and goes over to France. And out in the field there's all these other noises that he's not used to, and he hears a whistle that he's unfamiliar, so he starts whistling back to it, but actually it's the noise of a whiz-bang bomb, which takes him out completely, and the birds have lost their whistling friend. It's actually quite an up-tempo song. It's done in the style of old sort of music hall storytelling songs, and it's great fun. And So what Ben wanted to do was film it with the cast in as real a way as possible. Now, down in Crawley, near Gatwick Airport, south of London, there's a replica trench, World War One trench. The guy who owns it and runs it and has built it is a World War One historian, and the detail and the accuracy of how it is extraordinary. So Ben hired this facility, and we had the cast there on Sunday afternoon with the BBC cameraman, Keith Jacobson, who is brilliant and has done amazing things, and works a lot with news, so he's really, really quick. It doesn't take him any time at all to set up a shot. Brilliant. So we were there with the cast. All the boys were in the trench. We'd filmed the girls earlier on at a cemetery in East London, Abney Park Cemetery, which is a beautiful Victorian overgrown cemetery. It's still a working cemetery, but it's like this old park and massive trees and shrubberies growing up, and these old cracked, huge, great big Victorian mausoleum-style tombstones. It's really atmospheric. And because the song is about death, we had the girls who are not in the trenches, we had them in their costumes singing amongst the gravestones, and that's going to be edited in to the footage at the trench. It's brilliant. I've got a couple of photographs to show you of the boys in the trenches, and you'll be able to see what it is that we were dealing with. It really is quite exciting. So here it is. So you can see them in their World War One costumes, and the trench there, the corrugated iron and the sandbags and the poppies. Those poppies, we brought those. They were silk poppies, they weren't real. But it's just for the magic of television, you understand. So that's what the boys look like. I mean, it just looks so period and so fantastic. And then bringing things right up to date, there's Keith with his camera in the trench. You can just see Ben in the far corner there, in the bottom corner, looking in the monitor. And here's another shot of the lads in action in the trench. I mean, it's really, really atmospheric and just brilliant. I had to leave the shoot early because, going back to the title of this week's episode, I had to go off to the BAFTAs. It was so exciting. So exciting. I left Ben there to finish up the shoot. Channel 4, our broadcaster for Our Gay Wedding the Musical, sent a car for him to take him in, and we knew he was going to be late for the ceremony, but we hoped he'd be there in time for when our category was announced. And he was, thankfully. It was one of the most surreal things that's ever happened to me. I arrived and was there with the team from Wingspan, and for all of them, it's just a film that they worked on like any other film, and it's a film that's been nominated for lots of different awards, and we have won one, which is brilliant. But it is just a project. For me, it's my actual wedding. And to be there at the BAFTAs, this is not some small deal here. This is the BAFTAs for Best Specialist Factual Programme. When you think of how many thousands of hours of television get made and how many hours of documentary television get made every year, to be one of 4 documentaries nominated in this category, up against Grayson Perry and David Attenborough, and coincidentally a film about the First World War, was just mind-blowing. Anyway, I want to talk more about that in a moment. I'm going to backtrack now, because before we get to that, still BAFTA related, Friday, before this crazy weekend happened, Friday? Yeah, I think it was Friday, Ben and I and Archie, who is the executive producer, we had to go to the BAFTA offices to pick up something rather special. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but at the Oscars and at the BAFTAs, and I think at the Emmys as well, at the big award ceremonies, nominees get given goodie bags. Gift bags from the sponsors, who basically are just trying to hawk their wares around. But you get given good stuff. And as nominees this year in the BAFTAs, we were invited to go and collect our goodie bags. So we went along, and I had no idea what to expect. It could have been anything in there. And we went along to the BAFTA offices, and we were given This is mine. I've got mine here. Have you ever wondered what's inside an award ceremony gift bag? Well, wonder no more. I'm going to take you on a little tour through the contents of mine. How exciting. Oh, it's really heavy. This is the bag. It's actually really, really heavy. I haven't weighed it, but it's hard to hold up in one arm like this. Modaloo here. There's a clue there of one of the things that's inside. Now, far be it from me to sound ungrateful. I am very, very grateful for being given lots of things for free. I genuinely am. But, there's always a but. But, the contents of this bag don't really seem to be aimed very much towards boys. Now, you know my crusade about stuff for boy knitters. Well, how about stuff for boy nominees? It is all a little bit girly. So I think the women in my family will be getting some nice presents. So the first thing that one sees when one opens the bag is this. I mean, look, I have no hair. It's a 3D super styler and it's pink. That's what caught my eye immediately, and I was like, oh, really? But there is some more fun stuff in there as well. Look at this. Some lovely cordials from whoever they are, Bottle Green. We've got elderflower cordial, pomegranate and elderflower, ginger and lemongrass. Ooh, I like the sound of that one. And spiced berry. But what's really nice about this, it's not just a little bit of cordial, it's all in a BAFTA branded box. How lovely is that? What a nice souvenir to have. What I was slightly hoping for would be the bag would be something with BAFTA written on it as a nice memento, but again, that's me being ungrateful and selfish. We were also given some Fortnum and Mason's tea, the BAFTA blend. How lovely. It combines... Oh, Josh, Josh Ricks, I should have mentioned, you'll like this particularly. Shall I read it out to you? I haven't opened it, so I don't know what it tastes like. But for your quench, maybe you should get hold of some of the BAFTA blend. This wonderful blend of tea has been especially created for BAFTA. It combines deep black long leaves of Ceylon New Vithanakanda Orange Pico. That was read at sight. I've not read this before. I was pleased with how that went. With pale, silky, golden, china yellow buds from the Manong Ancient Tea Association. It sounds very special. The result is a light tea with a caramel sweetness and a soft, fragrant finish. Best served without milk. How exciting is that? And it says BAFTA on the label. Can you see all there? And it's from Fortnum and Mason's. Posh tea. Posh BAFTA tea. Least said, soon as mended. This is one thing I will enjoy. Truffles from Hotel Chocolat. Ha ha! I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I have a criminally sweet tooth. Hardly a day goes by without me eating some form of chocolate, and this is going to go down very well. Classic champagne truffles, no less. Very nice. Another thing that is perfectly boy-friendly. Tattinger champagne. Very nice. Don't mind if I do. I really don't mind if I do. This is quite fun. It's a little card here, which is a 10% discount card of anything in Selfridges, big store in London. So I'll probably try and find something I can use that on to not let it go to waste. Wonder hairspray. Again. An Evian Brumisateur facial spray. A little facial spritz there just for the hot days. Push. It's not a hot day today. It's teeming down with rain. Really, really cold. I was out earlier going for a meeting about this documentary, and it was really cold and wet. I don't like that. These are kind of fun. These are for boys. They are from Howick. I don't know what they're made of. I guess probably just stainless steel, but they're, can you see they're the little collar stays. They're the little spikes that you put into your collars to keep them nice and firm. And they're the bits that if you forget to take them out, they damage your washing machine. I don't wear these kind of things, but maybe I will. Now that I've got them, now that I own them, maybe I should. You know, it is BAFTA after all. Oh, you know, some Saint-Tropez bronzer, bronzing spray. I mean, it strikes me that the reason why they've probably geared it all towards girls is because boys probably don't care very much, and most boys will have like a girlfriend or something to pass it on to. But when you're nominated for a film called Our Gay Wedding, all I'm saying, this is camp. This is properly camp. It's I don't really know what it is. Look at that glinting in the light. There's a shiny snakeskin effect. It is leather. I mean, it smells very much of leather. It's a little zip-up bag, and it's from Bieber, which are, you know, quite a good make. And inside, it's. I might use it as a really camp project bag. I mean, it would be quite fine for a pair of socks or something. Although the zip will probably catch on yarn coming out, so maybe that's not such a good idea after all. Before you all write in, why don't you write in anyway? Just tell me anyway. Yeah, I thought it might be an iPad case. It's just not quite big enough. It just doesn't quite go in, and I've tried stretching it, and it can't be that. So perhaps it's a little, I don't know, is that the sort of thing that girls would wear out and put their makeup in and wear under their armpit as a clutch? I don't know. I don't do the girl thing. I don't understand. But, you know, very nice. Oh, a little necklace. Again, I broke the box, but I'll try and open it without it falling apart completely. There you go. It's from Carat of London. You see there? Carat of London. And it's this little, I think it's silver, sterling silver, and there's little tiny little diamond bits in there. That's worth about £100 or so. Nice little gift, although the box broke when I tried to open it. But still, that's nice. Oh, the most random thing. A bag of bananagrams. Now, if you don't know what bananagrams are, it's a game. It's I don't know how to play it, but it's a bag of, sorry about the rustling. These little tiles, they look a bit like Scrabble tiles without scores on them, and you just make words out of them. They're lots of fun. I don't know why it's in a BAFTA bag. Maybe B for bananagram, B for BAFTA. I don't know. Also, a nice pen. This pen is from Grolsch, who were the beer sponsors, apparently, of this year's BAFTA ceremony. There were Grolsch on the dinner tables afterwards. Nice little pen there. Haven't written with that yet, but that's a nice thing. Who doesn't love a nice pen? Oh, another one definitely for the girls. Oh, look! I'm seeing all of your eyes lighting up. All you girls going, ooh, MAC products. Ooh, what's in there? Oh, there's some tissue paper in there. And there's this lovely little gift box. This will make a nice present, I'm sure. It's not something I'll ever use. And in here we've got, I don't know, some MAC things. I'm not even going to bother going through them all because it's MAC stuff. There's some, you know, foundation stuff and some, I don't even know what this is. Pro Longwear Paint Pot Paintures. Any girls out there, if you've got any idea what that's all about, or boys, let's not be gender specific about this, any boys that are more savvy about this kind of thing than I are also free to answer, please let me know. I've no idea what that word even is. Prep and prime, pencil, volumizing mascara. Oh, and a lipstick, I think. Is that a lipstick? Yeah, lipstick, very nice. Very girly. I might be homosexual, but I'm not the kind of person who wears this sort of makeup. Also, getting to the end of it now. Oh, look, a day pass for a spa treatment. It's very nice. I will definitely be taking advantage of that. That I'll leave till later. And then finally, the reason why it's in a Modaloo bag is because, I mean, this is a really lovely thing. It's just not for me. Big leather handbag. Look at that. And it's got, you know, it's quite large inside. It's got different compartments and stuff, and zippy stuff, and it's real leather. Smells good. I looked it up online because I'm cheap, and it's worth £260. It's not bad, is it? I think that's going to my mum. So there we are. I mean, it's really, really lovely things. I reckon there's, I don't know, well over £500 worth of stuff there. That MAC makeup apparently is about £100 on its own. So, not being mercenary about it, but, you know, it's really lovely to get high quality things. It is, I promise, it is. One thing, now here's, this is like I'm doing a mini giveaway based on this bag. There is one thing here that I will never be able to use, purely and simply because I don't live in the right part of the world. Now, I'm not entirely sure what it is. It says here, it's Villa Maria Invitation, New Zealand, from New Zealand's most awarded winery. And it says inside, I've not read this, so you're hearing this the first time, same as me. Dear BAFTA nominee, congratulations on your nomination for a coveted BAFTA award. I wish you the best of luck for the ceremony. I would like to take this opportunity to extend an invitation to you and a guest to visit my Villa Maria winery in Auckland. Villa Maria is proud to be the official wine to BAFTA, and it would give me great pleasure to be able to show you firsthand what makes our wine so special. Come and enjoy a wine tasting at our cellar door, followed by a light lunch and a leisurely tour of the winery, where you will see the winemakers hard at work. So it's only 5 minutes apparently from Auckland Airport. It says we look forward to welcoming you. Lovely, but of course I'd have to get myself to New Zealand. So it says here, this invitation is non-transferable. I get that. And is extended solely to the BAFTA nominee plus one guest. No transport will be included. So I'll look into it, but I'm planning to let somebody have it. It would be lovely if someone in New Zealand could use it. So if you are in New Zealand, PM me on Ravelry, Sockmatician, and I'll get in touch, and maybe we can make this happen. I don't know, I'm not promising anything, but wouldn't it be nice if you could put it to good use? I think that would be lovely. So there we are, that's the contents of my BAFTA goodie bag, and a little bit of a potential giveaway. I mean, I hope it doesn't all go wrong. I'd hate for someone to turn up and be turned away because they're not me. Maybe you'll have to pretend to be me. How about that? Or maybe they're not going to know. I don't know. So anyway, moving on from that, onto the ceremony itself. It was, as I said earlier, one of the most surreal things ever. It was at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, which is where Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is currently playing in London. And it's a theatre I know very well. My very first West End job was in Miss Saigon, which was at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane back then. And I worked in that building and performed on that stage for just over a year. Very, very happy memories, and it's a beautiful, beautiful building. What I've done is I've taken some footage, especially for the podcast, some exclusive footage of me, the red carpet, and inside the auditorium, and at the dinner afterwards. So I think probably what I'll do now is I'm going to cut that in here. So rather than talking about it, I can show you firsthand. You can actually get a first-hand account of what it's like to attend the BAFTAs. Well, here I am on the red carpet outside the BAFTAs. Just behind me you can see the entrance to the theatre. There are throngs of people all over the place. It's very surreal. There's TV cameras everywhere. It's very, very exciting. Lots of people are calling for various celebrities to look over so they can give them selfies. It's lots of fun. I'll see you inside. Inside the auditorium. Well, not quite. The auditorium's that way. I was about to be the first person in, and I thought that would be really tragic. But I've got my Tattinger champagne, there's celebrities all around me, and it's truly exciting. Well, it's just about to kick off. We've just been called to take our seats. The stage is behind me. Let's see what happens. Well, we didn't win, but that's okay. We've just got to eat in this fantastic dinner here. We are all over the Grosvenor House Hotel, which is looking marvellous. It's actually the third time we've been here for a dinner in the last few months. One for the Broadcast Awards and one for the Royal Television Society Awards. And we didn't win either of those either. So it doesn't matter. We're proud nominees. It was a great night out. We had a great time watching the show and seeing everyone else take their awards. And congratulations to Grace and Perry. Very well deserved. So there you have it. We didn't win. Ben and I knew we weren't going to win. I always think there are two types of nominations for something like this. There are the films that they nominate because they have a chance of actually winning, and they have the films that they nominate because although there's no chance of this film winning, they feel that they want to give a recognition, and that recognition is the nomination. And I genuinely, without any hint of trying to make it sound, putting a positive spin on things, I genuinely think that that's what happened in our case. We were very small fry compared to the other nominees in our category. Incredibly proud just to be in their company. And Grayson's film was brilliant. Ben and I both enjoyed it before we knew we were up against him. And we had already lost out to Grayson at the Royal Television Society Awards. So we had a fair inkling that it was probably going to go to him. And rightly so, genuinely rightly so. For us, and for me, I think the message in our film about how important same-sex marriage is and equality for all is, for that to be being recognised on such a massive platform as the BAFTAs is really, really exciting and makes both of us very, very proud. And the clip that they showed when they announced the nominees was the clip that I've shown to you guys in episode 2. Was me singing a snippet of my vows to Ben, and it got a really, really warm response in the auditorium. People seemed to be enjoying what they were watching. So all of that was good. So there we are. It's a little bit later in the week than I would normally be recording. Just because I've been busy at work the last 3 days and I haven't had any time to do it. But so normally this would be up by now. It's now Thursday. I normally do it on a Wednesday. But I just wanted to make sure I could have the time to devote to it and do it properly. So what's next? What are we looking at next on my list? What else did I want to talk about? In the community section. We're back in our community. As I've already talked about, community for me is really important, and my Ravelry group now has over 500 members, which is brilliant. Let's keep that one coming up. Please pop over and join if you haven't done already. My YouTube channel is growing and growing and growing. I've got over 1,400 subscribers, which blows my mind slightly. Welcome to each and every one of you. I hope you're watching. But I said on my last episode that if you've mentioned me in a podcast, then I'd love to hear about it because I want to be able to reciprocate. And if any of my subscribers who haven't come across your podcast yet, therefore move from YouTube, but include you in their podcast watching, then that will make me very happy. And a couple of people have. Prairie Girl, I think it's Danny. It's Danie, but I don't know if you're Danny or if you are Danny. I'm going to guess for Danny, apologies if that's not right, but Prairie Girl Danny, who hosts the Prairie Girls Knit and Spin podcast. It's audio only, it's not a video podcast, so it's great for if you're out and about or if you are knitting and don't want to be distracted by images. I haven't had a chance to listen to you yet because I'm not set up for audio podcasts, so I need to find out exactly how to get hold of you, but it's Prairie Girls Knit and Spin is the name of the podcast, and Prairie Girl Danny is Prairie. I'm not going to spell it. It's going to be appearing right here, right now. That's probably easier. Prairie Girl Danny on Ravelry, so I'm sure you can find out how to listen to it from there. But thank you very much for mentioning me, whatever you said. I hope it's positive. And here's a mention for you. Happy shout out back to you. Also, another one I don't really know how to pronounce. This is a Swedish podcast on YouTube and Ravelry. There's a girl called Maya. I think you are Swedish, aren't you, Maya? You are Swedish, yes, I'm certain. And I'm going to have a go at pronouncing your Ravelry name and your YouTube name. Is it Shermailin? Shermailin? It's spelled... It's there. What am I going to spell it for? It's there. Please tell me if that's wrong. Shermailin. I know there's a Swedish singer called Helen Sjöholm, and she's SJO, but her O has an umlaut over the top. So I don't know if it's Shermailin or Sjömailin. Don't know. I'm guessing that SJ is pronounced sh. Josh, Dairyland Knits, maybe that's one for you. Do you know much about these sorts of things? Different pronunciation, different languages. You're the linguist. Come on, let me know. I really enjoyed watching Maya's podcast. It's really interesting she's also a singer, which I completely forgot to mention. That's the whole point of mentioning her. She's also a singer, and she plays guitar, and there's a lovely clip of her singing on her YouTube channel on one of her local TV stations. She sang, I believe it's a folk song, or it may be more recent than that, but it has a very sort of Swedish folky feel to it. Really lovely. Very well done. I enjoyed it a lot. That's the kind of thing I like seeing from people, getting to know the person behind the podcaster. Yes, that's what it's all about. All right, I will go back. I didn't mention this last time, but there's been a little bit of controversy about the length of my podcasts. Some people are telling me they think it's too long. I'm okay with that. I genuinely am okay with that. No one is under any obligation to watch all of it, or indeed any of it. I'm not going to change it. I like a longer podcast, and quite a few people have got in touch to tell me that they really do as well. I'm not going to revamp all this old ground, but just to say, I just start talking, and when I've run out of things to say, I stop. And so far, it's been about hour and a quarter, hour and a half, something like that. I don't put any time limits on myself. I just burble along. And if you don't want to listen, you don't have to listen. It's absolutely fine. But hopefully we can draw a line under that. My podcast is this. I like it. Some people like it too. That makes me happy. I'm okay with that. Another podcast who's mentioned me is Emma in Norway. I seem to be a big hit with the Scandinavian podcasters at the moment, which is great. I've never spent any time in Norway at all. I did go to Stockholm once, just overnight. I was there for a very brief period of time, and it was in February. It was bitterly, bitterly cold. I was doing a corporate event where I had a massive, great big bag full of little plastic tubes, which are all different colours and different lengths, and they're tuned. So if you hit them against your hand, you get a noise that goes doo. And they're on a pentatonic scale. For the non-musicians among you, that's 5 notes in a pentatonic scale, pentatonic, and they are do 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 do. So if it's in the pitch of C, it'd be C D E G A, and getting different people hitting different colours in different rhythms, you can make melodies out of them. It's great fun, and that's what I was doing as a sort of icebreaker at a conference. So I flew over to Sweden in the night. It was sort of the evening, and this is going back some. I don't even know why I'm bothering to tell you this. With my boom whackers, which is what they're called, because you whack them and they go boom. And I was the icebreaker at this conference. So the next morning, first of all, I stormed into this conference delegation meeting and handed out all of these tunes. Had 15 minutes maximum with them, teaching them these rhythms, getting them whipped up into a frenzy, and I was off. And I'd said to the people who'd flown me over there, please don't fly me back straight away. And this I was done by 10 o'clock in the morning. I've never been to Sweden before. I am the world's biggest ABBA fan. Really, genuinely, have been all my life. I have an ABBA tattoo, giving something away for a future episode of What's Tat. And I really, really wanted to spend some time in Stockholm, city of ABBA. So I had the whole day basically before I had to fly, and I went on a bit of an ABBA pilgrimage. I went to the site of the old Polar Music Studios, which is where they recorded a lot of their records. It's now a gym, but the Polar logo is still etched on the glass door, and that was really exciting. And I went to the Musikmuseet, which is a music museum, where they have one of Benny's pianos, which is really exciting. And I went to Hotel Rival as well, which is co-owned by Benny, and I had dinner there. So I immersed myself in ABBA stuff, and it was brilliant. That's a big digression. Emma, in Norway, I haven't named you properly yet. You are Chubby Pug Yarn. And I really enjoyed listening to you. It was a fun podcast. Thank you very much. Now, another one that I want to talk about, I've spoken about before, and this is Joyce in Australia. I actually don't know where in Australia you are, but your Ravelry name is Zoe Knit Girl, and your YouTube channel is, I don't know why I'm telling you this, everyone else. Joyce's Ravelry name is Zoe Knit Girl, and her YouTube channel is Aussie Yarning. And if you haven't come across Joyce's podcasting style, she is so charming, she's so adorable. You will fall in love with her, you will want her to be a family member, and the 2 episodes I've watched are her cruise special. She went on a knitting cruise over to New Zealand and back. From Sydney, I think. And honestly, Joyce, I loved hearing about your cruise. I loved hearing about everything that you got up to. I could listen to you prattle on all day very, very happily. And for everyone who hasn't listened to Joyce, please go and check in. But the reason I'm mentioning Joyce is because she has been knitting my Remember cowl, the double knit cowl with the poppies on it. And I'm not going to find it and read it now, but she left a beautiful post on my Ravelry group, which relates to some of the things she was talking about in her podcast episode. And she's made some mistakes in the knitting of her Remember cowl, and she's decided very specifically to leave them in. She talks about how she was finding double knitting difficult, and she wasn't sure she was enjoying it very much. She doesn't like the sort of 1x1-ish rib aspect of it, and then she got to thinking that the men that she was remembering, the sort of war heroes, the men in the trenches in the First World War, they didn't get a choice over whether or not they wanted to persevere with the things that they were finding difficult and the things that they were enduring. They had to get on with it, and compared to what they were going through, her difficulties with double knitting seemed insignificant and small. And so she therefore wanted to persevere. And as I say, she made some mistakes, and she's left them in because she knows from personal experience, from living with her husband, she knows the damage that can be done to men who come back from war. They can come back damaged, and that damage can last with them forever. She puts it a lot better than I'm doing now, but basically she wants to keep that damage in the cowl as a constant reminder that these people are a little bit broken, and that shouldn't be forgotten. It's just really moving. I can't add any more to that. Joyce, thank you very much. It was a beautiful sentiment, and I love every single mistake that you've made. I also have been apparently mentioned, I haven't had a chance to look at this one, I'm afraid, a Knitter's Life podcast, which is Christine. Really badly planned. I don't have all of your details here, but it's a Knitter's Life podcast. I guess it's on YouTube for anyone else who wants to go over and check that one out. Christine, thank you very much. And fantastic news, we have a mini episode back on YouTube, went up yesterday, I believe, from James Bartley, Dancing Geek. James, I'm so glad to see you back. Welcome back to podcasting. You and I should probably talk. Let's make that happen. And I'm really delighted to see you back. I've missed you, and a lot of other people have as well, so I look forward to hearing more from you in due course whenever you're good and ready. So fantastic to see you back. Thank you for that. Now, I don't have any questions really from the podcast thread this time round, so can we please sort that out for next time? I enjoy answering your questions, so please make sure you do. Actually, that's not quite true. There is one question, but it's not from my thread. It's from Elizabeth, Green Musselman, from Dark Matter Knits. This ongoing love affair between our two podcasts is continuing. Now, in my last episode, Elizabeth had asked me a question which I answered, and then I'd said that I was going to ask her a question as well, and I returned the same question to her. Now, in her last episode, she has berated me somewhat for that, saying how lame it was of me, in her words, how lame it was of me to return the same question to her. But she very graciously did go on and answer it. I take it. It was really, really lame of me, and that's not even a word that I use, but it was. That's the best word to describe it. I'll tell you what happened. I have to take your criticism, but I'll tell you what happened. I knew that I was going to be answering Elizabeth's question, and I knew that I had to respond, or I wanted to respond, with a question for her of my own. I hadn't planned in advance what I was going to say, and I got to it on my. I have my notes on my iPad. Can't receive it. Oh, you really can't see. Oh, there we are. Somewhat there. And I was working through it, and I got to that point, and I panicked. I realised I had nothing to say. I went, and I've got a question for you. And I had nothing. I had absolutely nothing, and my mind went completely blank. So that was all I could think of in the heat of the moment. So I apologise, Elizabeth, for that. Really, really bad. I pride myself on being quite quick thinking and able to sort of think on the go. It failed me. It absolutely deserted me then. So I do have a proper question for you. That's coming in a moment, because you've asked me another one. Yes, so your question for me was, what pattern made me fall in love with knitting, or made me re-fall in love with knitting? Well, that's a really interesting question, and it's not the easiest thing to answer, so I'm going to combine that with my historic FO section. Historic FOs. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to show you what it is I'm going to talk about, and it is one of my historic FOs. So the reason it's difficult for me to answer that just completely off the cuff is because it wasn't a pattern that made me fall in love with knitting at all. On the last episode, G-Socracy, can't say it. G-Socracy, is that right? Yeah. I talked about the geography of a sock, G-Socracy, and it was that made me fall in love with knitting to begin with. So it wasn't really a pattern at all. It was the engineering, it was the structure and the format of how to make a sock, and how I could adapt that to make any sock I wanted, and it would always fit me. So that was what got my brain immediately engaged in what knitting and designing could be all about. But that's not a good enough answer. The other part of your question, or maybe re-fall in love, well, when I was very, very young, probably 7 or 8 years old, maybe even younger, there was a glorious lady who was a friend of our family called Auntie Betty. She was not a blood relative at all, and she knitted me an Aran jumper. It was an Aran jumper. It was great. I was a child. I didn't care, and I didn't wear it very often. I didn't like it very much, I don't think. And eventually it got either thrown away or given away. I'm not sure what happened to it. As I grew up, she's now long since died, many, many years ago, and became a knitter myself, I realised what went into that. A garment is no small thing. I was a small person, but still not like a hat. And I realised that meant how much she cared for me. You know, she put a lot of time and effort, and therefore love, into knitting that for me. And I felt really bad, and I wanted to repay her. So I was talking about this at a knitting group that I attended, and one of the ladies there, Liz, said to me, because she knew that I was a designer, sock designer specifically at that point, I hadn't really discovered double knitting then, she said, you know what you should do? You should design a pair of socks based on an Aran jumper and name them after her in tribute. I was like, oh, yes, you are so right. That's exactly what I should do, and that's exactly what I did. When I was looking into traditional Aran stitch patterns, there were so many to choose from. I thought, I can't just choose one design. So what I came up with was the Auntie Betty Aran sock collection, and it's a single pattern where it's one recipe to make the sock, but there are 3 different sets of charts, and you can just use, they're interchangeable. So you can knit it with chart A, chart B, or C, and you get a different sock each time. So for me, that was 6 socks that needed to be knitted, and I feel that in some way pays Auntie Betty back for all the love and the time, the attention that she put into my jumper, which I didn't appreciate at the time, but I do now. And I'd like to show you the socks. Here they are. This is the first of the 3. They've got a little bit of fluff and stuff on them. They are worn, so apologies for that. It's a cream sock. I knitted these in Malabrigo sock. Now, as we all know, it's a bit of a misnomer, and Malabrigo sock has no nylon in it, and the socks fall apart in seconds. So not necessarily the best choice, but the colourway is lovely. It's just their natural colour. And it's got this braid going all the way down, this cable braid. It's on both sides, front and back. It runs all the way down the foot of the sock as well to the toe, and open it up a little bit so you can see properly. It's a beautiful cabled pattern all the way down here. I really love it, and there's a little line of twisted stitches for definition either side, and this is a sort of a cable, I think that way, I think it's called the antler cable, is that right? Because it looks like little antler horns going up, and that's that one. That's the one of the 3. One of the others is quite similar because it's a finite amount of stitches that one can use in a sock. This one has a completely different cable going down the centre. This is the Saxon braid, which many people will be familiar with already, and I've flanked that either side with, hard to see in this light, it's called noughts and crosses or hugs and kisses, braids going down the side, and a little bit of ribbing around the actual sides to make it sort of stretchy and nice. And again, that cabling goes down into the heel and all the way down the side of the front of the foot. And then the third, this is the one that most people seem to like the best, actually, and is probably the most traditional of the 3, and it's this. Looks a lot like a Scottish kilt sock in many respects, and it's got a little sort of moss stitch and twisted rib there, with a little sort of braided plait of 3 cables and a tiny little twist. So there's a lot of things going on this one, and I think this one looks more like the kind of Aran jumpers that people are used to seeing. So there we are, Elizabeth. These, it's not that they remade me fall in love with knitting, but they made me appreciate knitting in a different way, and that's why I've chosen that pattern. I really enjoyed putting them together. As with my Remember cowl, for me it has a significance behind it, it has a meaning behind it, and I was doing it for a purpose. I was doing it to honour my Auntie Betty, who was a wonderful woman, and to apologise and to sort of recompense, to make reparations, if you like, for the childish way the selfish way I'd behaved as a child, because children are selfish. They can't be blamed for it, but they are. And I felt bad. So there, my Auntie Betty Aran sock collection. It is available from Ravelry, and your LYS can download it as well. If you fancy knitting your own, then please let me know. Obviously download the pattern, but let me know that you're doing it. I'd be really interested to see which one you choose and how they come out. So there we are, my Auntie Betty Aran sock collection. Now I have a question for you, Elizabeth. I genuinely do have a question for you. Because this is all about what made me fall in love with knitting, and these are the socks that sort of gave me a whole new appreciation and are all to do with memories. That's the theme I want to use for you. Which finished object, this is specifically for Elizabeth to answer, but I'd be really interested to hear anybody else's answers on Ravelry. But Elizabeth, which finished object of yours holds the most powerful memories? I'm not going to qualify that with anything else, but it needs to be something that you've knitted, and it needs to be something that evokes really powerful memories for you. Tell me that story. So here we are, stuff for the boys. I've been looking around, and quite a few people are putting in suggestions for stuff for the boys. There's only one. Oh, I haven't actually pre-planned this one. Let me find it on Etsy. It's a chap. I forget who it is who's alerted me. It's not Joe himself, but Joe's Knits. joesknits.etsy.com. Yeah, that's right. Has some nice... It's not there. Let me look at this again. I've said before, warts and all. It is Joe's Knits. Joe's Knits. Let's try that. Joe's Knits. Yeah, he's got some stitch markers which have been suggested as being fairly boy-friendly. Things like this, they're called Eye on the Target. It's hard to see because I've blown the pattern up, but they've got little arrows from like a bow and arrow, and some beads that are not sort of bright, shiny, sparkly beads. So they're really lovely, and he's Joe's Knits, Joes. I'm spelling again. There's no point spelling. Joe's Knits on Etsy. There you go. So that was really lovely. Thank you for that. I go and buy some of his stuff. But also, one of the things that people have been talking about, this has inspired Joyce in Australia, Aussie Yarning, Zoe Knit Girl. You've got so many names, Joyce, I don't understand. She asked what kind of... she makes stitch markers and sells them in her shop, and she has asked me what I think makes a good stitch marker that boys would be interested in. And I don't really know, because to be honest, they're not the kind of thing that I don't use a lot of stitch markers, although I have recently. And for me, I'm much more, as long as it works, I've used a loop of yarn tied around the needle, and that's been plenty for me. However, that wasn't a good enough answer. So I put the post on Ravelry for people to answer. There's been quite a lot of activity on this one. This made me laugh so much. Where is it? So people have been coming up with all sorts of different options. Anything boyish, beer, darts, tools, all the kind of things that represent what boys do. And of course I know we're gender stereotyping here, and I know that some girls like beer, and I know that some boys like bright, sparkly things as well. That's not the point. What the point of this is to see if there's a style of something that could go onto stitch markers, which would be different, deemed more masculine. So it's not about gender stereotyping at all, although of course it comes from that. And all of these things would be great. I urge you to take a walk through that thread. It's called Stitch Markers for the Boys on my group. There's some great suggestions in there. So Joyce, if you're watching, if you haven't already, have a little look through there. And then we get to the post from Mindful William. I didn't know quite what to make of this. Now, William, I hope you don't mind me saying this. You're clearly quite mad. But I was aware of this. You're a quirky personality, which I love about you. William posted a photograph of some stitch markers that he had made, and they look like this. So you think, okay, there's some metal going on, metal clasp, some brightly coloured knitting, and these brown, round beads. It turns out that's rabbit poo. Yep, William has made some... Apparently this is a prototype consisting of post-industrial high-intensity metallic metal, brackets paperclip, wild Indian tassar silk, colt wool fibre from the UK, and dingleberries, courtesy of Grant, the Angora rabbit. And we have a photograph of Grant, the Angora rabbit. Thank you, Grant, for your source material. And apparently it's sealed in clear acrylic for that special shimmer and sparkle and hopefully hygiene. So it gets crazier on that thread. I don't know about you guys. I'll be all right without stitch markers made of rabbit poo. But if anybody really would like some, get in touch with Mindful William on Ravelry, and I'm sure he'll be happy to oblige. Now, Joyce, again, you're getting lots of mentions today, has very, very kindly offered, because of this whole stitch markers for the boys thing, she's very kindly offered to make some and send them over to me for a giveaway. Also got some kind of email pop in. For a giveaway on this podcast, which is brilliant. Originally I was saying to her, well, don't send them just yet, because what if the person who wins them is actually from Australia or New Zealand? It might be easier for her to ship them from there. But then, of course, I thought, well, then I can't show them to people. So I think she's going to send some over anyway. It's really, really kind, really, really brilliant, and I'm all in favour of it. So if people see what she's doing and like what she's doing, and it has a knock-on effect that people want to buy things from Joyce, then brilliant. I'll be very happy with that. So she's going to send some over. So as and when they arrive, I'll show them on here, and we'll set up a giveaway for that. So thank you, Joyce, for that. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I'm very grateful. Another suggestion, and I can't for the life of me find the post where it was suggested to me, but we're talking about not just stitch markers, but also project bags and things like that and stuff for the boys. And someone suggested, and I think this is a brilliant idea, that getting a second-hand suit jacket from a charity shop or thrift shop or Goodwill, whatever you call it in wherever part of the world you're from, because there's lots of material in suits, and then you could use that to make a project bag. It would be really sort of manly, really sort of masculine, and of course suits have brilliant features like lapels and pockets, and I guess they could be incorporated into it somewhere as well, and the suits get lined, so there's lining material. I think it's a brilliant idea. So any of you project bag makers out there, if you want to go into some kind of arrangement with me, why don't we get talking? PM me or send me a message somehow, and let's get talking about this. And if you want to make up a prototype, then I will happily feature it on the podcast, so that people can see what it is you're doing. So get thinking, get scribbling, get sewing, but let me know first. I mean, obviously this is open to anybody. It's a brilliant idea and anyone can do it. But if anybody wants to sort of make this more formal and get something here, then if this podcast can help people to make a few pennies and give people things that they really like, then again, I'm all in favour of that. I think that'd be a great idea, and I love the idea myself. Whoever it was who said it to me, I'm so sorry for not crediting you, but it's a brilliant suggestion. Now we come to everybody's favourite pun. What's tat? It's been a bit chilly here today, so I'm wearing a cardigan, so I'm going to have to take that off. Apologies for stripping here on the podcast. Today's tattoo, featured tattoo from my sleeve of loveliness, is it translates as the Helm of Ore. Now I think that is such a brilliant title, so powerful. And it's this tattoo that I have on my shoulder. It looks like a big snowflake at a distance, but when I come in closer, you'll see that it's actually 8 almost like tridents with lines on them based around a circle. It's an old Norse symbol. It comes from the Norse mythology, sort of Odin and Thor and all of that kind of stuff. And from what I've been able to ascertain, it was used by warriors, old Nordic warriors. It's a symbol of protection and power. It's apparently a very powerful symbol in symbology. Its actual name is basically unpronounceable, but I'll give it a go. Ægishjálmur, I think. Ægishjálmur is right on screen now. Ægishjálmur is how I think it's pronounced, and it means the helm of Or. And I've got some information on it here, which I'd like to share with you. Where is it? Helm of Or. The helm of Or, Old Norse pronounced Ægishjálmur, is one of the most mysterious and powerful symbols in Norse mythology. Just looking at its form, without any prior knowledge of what that form symbolises, is enough to inspire awe and fear. It is. 8 arms that look like spiked tridents radiate out from a central point, as if defending that central point by going on the offensive against any and all hostile forces that surround it. Well, that's amazing for a start, right? Such overpowering might was apparently what this magical symbol was intended to produce. In the Fafnismal, pronunciation I don't know, one of the poems in the Poetic Edda, the havoc-wreaking dragon Fafnir attributes much of his apparent invincibility to his use of the Helm of Or. The Helm of Or I wore before the sons of men in defence of my treasure. Amongst all, I alone was strong. I thought to myself, for I have found no power a match for my own. This interpretation is confirmed by a spell called There is a Simple Helm of Or working in the collection of Icelandic folktales collected by the great John Arneson in the 19th century. The spell reads, make a helm of Or in lead, press the lead sign between the eyebrows and speak the formula Ægish helm egber milli bruna mer. Again, I'm so sorry. It means, I bear the helm of Or between my brows. Thus a man could meet his enemies and be sure of victory. It's amazing, isn't it? Apparently, there's this beautiful picture of one as well in this old book. Very, very old, handwritten book. Icelandic mythology, I think that is. Icelandic folktales. I believe that old Nordic warriors used to wear the Helm of Or, as suggested there, on their foreheads going into battle, and it was there to give invincibility to the wearer. So here it is, on my arm. It's a very, very powerful symbol. I love it. I'm really, really happy with that one, and I wear it with pride. And I'm invincible. Who knew? Moving swiftly on. I'm coming. I do have my notes. So, into knitting stuff. Now, as you know, I have been commissioned for a magazine publication for a double knit pattern. I've been very secretive about it, and I'm afraid I still need to remain so. But the deadline for finishing the pattern, for the knitting of it certainly, passed last Friday. I met it by the skin of my teeth. Not going to lie, this was tough. I had by the time the yarn arrived and everything was underway, I had about 3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks and 2 days, something like that, to knit what is a rather large project. And in double knitting, of course, there's double the amount of stitches that there would be for single face knitting. Oh, apologies. So it was really, really difficult. Last week I was only working one day actually, so I had I've got some real gurgles going on my tummy. I don't know if you heard that. I might have been able to get away with it, but just in case, I apologise. It was it's really, really hard. I was knitting up to 8 to 10 hours a day last week to try and get it finished. And I did. I finished it on Thursday afternoon, took it off the needles, and then immediately blocked it. Now, I don't normally block my double knitting. Double knitting, the joy of it, I've got nothing here to show you, but the joy of double knitting is it comes off the needles completely flat. Stocking stitch, as we know, will curl because pearl stitches tend to be bigger and they push things out of shape. But because double knitting has stocking stitch on both sides kind of balance each other out, and it just doesn't curl. It's completely flat. None of my double knit scarves that I've shown you have been anywhere near blocking. They are off the needles just like that. And my Genesis shawl is not blocked either. This one, I wanted to block it because I'd done some slightly unusual shaping on it. That's all I'm going to say. And I wanted to make the most of those shapes and make it as accurate as I possibly could. So it needed a block. So of course that's happened overnight. So it came off the blocking pads on Friday afternoon and got shipped Friday afternoon. Oh, it was so painful. I can't tell you. It was so painful to have spent that much intensive knitting time on this. It became my little baby. I put so much of my heart and soul into this pattern, and then to not own it for any more than 3 hours, and then pop it in a box and send it away. Excuse me. It was really painful, and actually, when I walked away from the post office, having just left it there, I got a little bit teary-eyed, and then I pulled myself together and thought, "Come on, Nathan, it's knitting." But yeah, it was quite strange. So I don't own it, so I can't show it to you. Even if I did own it, I couldn't show it to you. But what I have done, and this is for a later episode, I have filmed. I've done this setup and filmed a mini slot about it, where I can introduce the item to you and talk about it and show all the details. I've taken some photographs as well. So as and when it gets released in the magazine, I can then release it on here as well and talk about it. So all is not lost, you will get to see it. So I do have an FO. That was it. I mean, I'm not saying I've got another one. That was it. In terms of other knitting stuff, I haven't done a great deal else. That was entirely monogamous knitting for 3 weeks. I didn't touch anything else at all. And because I was knitting quite so much and quite so fiercely, I've hurt myself. I have a knitting injury. My elbows here and here, I think I've got a bit of RSI or tennis elbow, because I was just clack for hours. And knitting at the moment is quite painful. So I'm having to give it a little bit of a rest. But back to my whips, which are the same as they've always been. It's the 2 fractal scarves, about which more in a further episode. The Greek Fire shawl, which is by Josh Ricks, which is going to be the gift, the replacement for Ben. You know all this. But my gilt socks have come on. I have actually been doing some knitting on my gilt socks. I've turned the heel on the first one. My little Union Jack bag with my Union Jack cushions. It's all about the patriotism here. I do have the sock. It was much more advanced than it was last time you saw it. Just tied it up here. And here it is. There we are. Look at that. There's the heel flap. And I've turned the heel, and I am, it doesn't really look like it, but I am sort of starting to work down the gusset decreases now. I'm really happy with the way this is turning out. Really enjoying it. We talked last time about gisography, and my tip for you all was about how to get both sides of the decreases on your heel completely symmetrical by not purling 2 together but doing an SSP. And I couldn't really show you on the last sock because it wasn't. The colour wasn't great. So I thought, well, perhaps you'd like to see what it looks like on here. Can you see just how perfect and symmetrical these 2 sides are? If I get a bit closer, it'll get lighter, won't it? There we go. You see the stitches just literally flow around the corner with no interruption. And on this side too, they flow around the corner with no interruption. The SSP on the purl side and the knit 2 together on the knit side are the perfect match for each other. I urge you to whatever sock pattern you're doing, as long as it's got a sort of flap and heel turn construction, I urge you to substitute whatever it says in the pattern for the SSP. Now this goes for anyone who's knitting any patterns that I have designed myself, because I'm not going to change them, but in the early days of my knitting I didn't know this. This is something that I've sort of kind of figured out for myself. So my early patterns will say either, I think some of them say SSK, some of them say P2 together, through the back loop perhaps. Change it. Whatever it says, on the purl side, SSP is your purl decrease. It will serve you well, you will love it. So this sock, the gilt sock, I don't feel quite so guilty about it now. I'm loving the the texture. I'm really enjoying it. I'm being a little bit naughty because of my elbow problems, which is worse on the right side. I've actually, for a long time, been meaning to try and master continental knitting as well. Because when I double knit, I've got a yarn in both hands, and I'm quite happy working the two together, and basically that's continental on my left hand side, but I've never been able to be comfortable with just single knitting using the left hand and picking with the right. So I thought it's about time, and because my elbow's been flaring up a bit, I thought it might be easier for me to try and do some continental. So some of this is continental and some of it's not. I haven't, to be honest, noticed a huge difference in gauge. I'm a fairly tight knitter anyway, which is great for socks. I like to think of myself as a dense knitter, not a tight knitter. And maybe it's a little bit looser in some places, but maybe that's just fluctuations in mood and tension anyway. But I'm really, really happy with it. So the gilt sock is moving on apace. Less reason to feel guilty. Ha ha! Marvellous. I'm afraid I have no stash enhancements. And I have no more new needle adjacent projects. I just want to work on what I've got now. I've got 4 things on the go: the 2 scarves, the shawl, and the socks. And I want to get through those because I suppose the next needle adjacent project, apart from the cardigan I've spoken about before, is actually the 3rd in the fractal scarf series, which is the one that's. I want to get the other 2 out of the way first because it's going to be a lot more complicated to do. I want to sort of clear the slate before I get to that. So that's a needle adjacent project, I guess. Other than that, I'd like to do some more spinning. I showed you my my hand spun. I do have some fibre. I've got a big bag of alpaca fleece, which I think I mentioned. I'd like to get on with that. So maybe that should be a spindle adjacent project. But I don't think there'll be any time soon that I'll be getting around to that. So that's sort of it, really, in terms of all that kind of stuff, except I said earlier that I had sort of the mini giveaway, which if I can make that work, I will, for anyone in New Zealand. Or if you can easily get from Australia to New Zealand, it's up to you. But I want to do a proper giveaway. It's been a while since the Remember Cal giveaway, so here it is, the giveaway, hooray! I want to give away to just one lucky winner this time. One lucky winner, a free pattern. It'll be one of my patterns, and I am offering any of my double knit projects, any of my double knit patterns that are currently available on Ravelry. I'm offering as a prize, and there's a very simple question that I want you to answer, and I'm going to start a thread for this in my Ravelry group, and the question is simply this: what is it about double knitting that appeals to you? Now, you can come at this from a point of view of someone who is already an accomplished double knitter, and what is it about it that you like? What are the main reasons why you enjoy doing double knitting? Or if you're a beginner and have been inspired to try double knitting by some of the things I've been talking about and showing on this podcast, then what aspects of it is it that intrigues you the most? So that's the question. Please make it a no chatter thread. Just sort of put those bullet points in, the things that you like, and I will choose one for a winner on the next episode, which will be in 2 weeks' time. So get thinking. Let me know, possibly on the thread as well. Why don't you put down which pattern it is that you would like to make of my double knit project? So any of the scarves, the hat, the cowl. There's some on there. That might be it, actually. So any of those, just tell me which one you'd like to make, because that'll save time later on with some admin, and I'll know which one to send you. And when a winner has been chosen, I'll announce that on the next episode. But to recap, what is it about double knitting that intrigues you or pleases you the most? Thank you very much for listening. I've thoroughly enjoyed prattling on today and in showing you some bits and pieces about my life and my knitting world. Please share yours with me. Join the group, like and share this podcast, subscribe if you haven't done already here on YouTube. This podcast is now an FO. Remember though, life is a work in progress. Just take it one stitch at a time.